This is Britney Ruiz, formerly known within the adult entertainment industry as Jenna Presley. At the peak of her career, she was earning up to $80,000 monthly acting pornographic films and selling explicit merchandise. However, in 2012, she had a divine encounter that transformed her from a porn star to an evangelist. Like Britney, there are several other porn stars who have experienced similar transformation, and in this video, we'll share their remarkable redemption story with you. From Melissa Scott to Chrissy Moran and Joseph Sciambra, these are 7 adult film stars who found a higher calling and gave their lives to Christ. Although Danielle William grew up in a Christian home and was raised according to the doctrines of the Bible, she was led astray by some very unfortunate life incidents that ruined her childhood. At the age of 8, young Danielle was raised by her nanny's son, and as if that wasn't enough, she suffered constant physical abuse from her father, which nearly led to her death. This unfortunate situation continued for a while until her father was arrested, and she moved in with her mom. For young Danielle, this was an opportunity to move on from the past and lay the foundations for a better future. But little did she know that her situation was about to get even worse. First, she was raped by a man in the neighborhood at the 12. Then she became pregnant for a 27-year-old pimp who wanted her to be his prostitute. Danielle delivered prematurely, and the baby died within hours. But the experience left her completely broken. She hated the sight of men and wanted to enact revenge. Ill-advised by friends, she started stripping at 14 before eventually delving into prostitution. Desperate to upscale her income, she entered into the uncanny world of the adult film industry. The pay was good, but for some reason, she opted to continue her work as a prostitute. One day, she met a customer who took her home and literally abducted her. This rogue customer would rape her every day and threaten to hold her captive for life. Helpless and traumatized by her new reality, Danielle cried to God for help and promised to turn a new leaf as soon as she regained freedom. Miraculously, a man heard her cry a few days later and helped her escape. Since then, Danielle William has become a new being. She has written several books detailing the horrible life she lived in the past as a way of encouraging other people not to go down the same route.
There's no sin too big or too bad for Christ. And when everyone else leaves you, he'll never leave you nor forsake you. And I'm a living witness, a walking example of what Christ can do in somebody's life.
Unlike Danielle, April Garris got involved in the adult movie industry a little bit later in her life. She was 26 when she started stripping, and her first porn movie appearance didn't happen until she was 29. So, you could argue that her involvement in porn was voluntary. But there was a bit of a twist to it. April was married to a porn addict, and he was the one who suggested she got involved in the act. Since the family was going through tough times financially, she accepted the idea and over. With the support of her husband, she started her career as a porn actress and would go on to feature in 20 X-rated movies. But somewhere along the line, she realized that that wasn't what she wanted for her life. So, she severed ties with her husband and gave her life to Christ. Today, April knows her life isn't perfect, but she admits it's a lot better than what it used to be. Next up on our list is Britney Ruiz, popularly known within the porn industry as Jenna Presley. Britney had a low self-esteem and felt very unloved as a child. So, when she started getting an overload of attention and love from adult movie producers in high school, she embraced it, and in no time, they were able to sweet-talk her into acting in sex movies. She became very successful, featuring in over 300 hardcore movies while earning around $80,000 monthly from the scheme. But about 3 years into her career, she met a pimp who miraculously led her to Christ. Britney genuinely thought this would be the end of her involvement in porn, but she was wrong. The same pimp who led her to Christ reintroduced her to the adult entertainment industry, and it was as if she never left. She got gigs after gigs, but her life never made sense. She resorted to alcohol and hard drugs like cocaine and heroin to cope with the strain of the job. But somehow, she had a divine encounter on her way to a shoot in Las Vegas, and the Spirit of the Lord laid it upon her heart to read Revelation chapter 2 verses 20 to 23, which highlights the punishments for Jezebel and those who commit adultery with her. Britney meditated on the scripture for a while, and she eventually decided to call it quit. But not only did she quit, she became an evangelist, and together with her husband, she leads the church, a ministry that helps people to overcome their porn addictions. Before we proceed to the next adult star who gave it all up for Christ, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Now back to the video. Like Britney, Chrissy Moran also had a troubled childhood. Her parents had a toxic relationship which resulted in a divorce. To make things worse, she suffered as a kid, and with nobody to confide in, she kept the incident to herself. The trauma drove her into depression, and she started to seek relationships with the wrong men, a path that eventually led her into the adult movie industry in 1999. Over the next 7 years, Chrissy's brand grew exponentially. She performed in over 50 adult films, sold X-rated merchandise, and even posed for Playboy. As you can imagine, he was earning good money, yet she hated her life and felt bad every time she had to remove her clothes for a shoot. Overwhelmed by confusion, Chrissy cried out to God, asking for help and a sign that would help her quit porn. Sure enough, the sign came the very next day when a man preached to her on the set of a shoot. This preaching touched Chrissy so much that she decided to quit her job as a porn star instantly. It was a difficult decision, one that left her broke. But Chrissy was determined not to go back. And today, her life has been completely transformed. She is happily married to a pastor named Lawton Outlaw and spends most of her time exposing the ill activities that go on in the adult movie industry. But Chrissy Morgan is not alone on this quest because Teresa Carey, another ex-porn star, is also a strong advocate against the industry. Carey traveled to America on invitation at the age of 17 after winning a beauty pageant. Then somewhere along the line, she was introduced to the pornographic industry and quickly became a superstar. She made all kinds of hardcore movies and posed for erotic pictures that featured in Playboy magazine. Deep down, she knew that wasn't the life she wanted to live, and after several years of fighting the urge to quit, God revealed himself to her in December 2009. And that was enough to make her turn a new leaf. Nowadays, Carey is an established Christian author and public speaker. She tells her redemption story at different campuses across the country and hopes that it will help discourage other people from indulging in pornographic activities. As a child, Shelley Lubben had the best religious upbringing you can think of. Growing up in Pasadena, in California, her parents took her to church regularly, and she was absolutely in love with God. But everything changed when she turned 9, and the family relocated to Glendora. The family stopped attending church services and drifted away from God altogether. With no spiritual support from her parents, Shelley started to backslide. She started off with minor misdemeanors like alcohol, but it wasn't long before she graduated to smoking marijuana and having sexual relationships with the wrong people. At 18, she had her first prostitution gig, which paid $35, and within a short while, she became a full-blown porn actress. She eventually left the industry after she caught herpes, but her addiction to alcohol and drugs continued. Well, that was until the year 2000 when she experienced God firsthand. According to Shelley, God spoke to her clearly, saying, "The next time you drink, you'll die." This was the turning point in her life. She became sober and began to right the wrongs of her past. In doing that, she established the Pink Cross Foundation, an organization that provides support for people affected by commercial sex exploitation. Moving on now to the only male on our list, Joseph Sciambra, who was for many years a homosexual and amateur porn star. He was knee-deep into the act, and it looked like he was irredeemable, but a near-death experience in 1999 changed his sexuality and ultimately his life. On that fateful day, Joseph found himself vomiting an excessive amount of blood after performing in a hardcore shoot. Worried that this may be the end of the road, he ran to his parents' house and narrated his ordeal to his mom, who rushed him to the hospital. Unfortunately, his condition worsened even more. He continued to vomit and eventually lost consciousness, falling into a trance. The room suddenly turned dark and a mythical mouth showered him with hot, moist, and stinking vapor. He felt his soul leaving his body and suddenly came to the realization that he was about to be whisked away to hell. Although he knew well enough that he hadn't lived a holy life, Joseph cried out to Jesus for help, and miraculously, he regained consciousness. Joseph knew right away that he had narrowly escaped hell, and for him, there was no going back to the rogue life he lived in the past. He repented from his sins and officially joined and repurposed his life for Christ. Of all the stories featured in the video, the redemption tale of Melissa Scott is perhaps the most intriguing. Back in the 80s, Melissa built a successful career in the adult movie industry, even earning the nickname Barbie Bridges. On the outside, it seemed like she was enjoying the fame and attention that came with her job as a porn star. But that wasn't the case. Like many others who are involved in the industry, Melissa was battling with feelings of emptiness, shame, and a deep sense of unfulfillment. She found herself yearning for something more, a deeper meaning to life. In a remarkable turnaround, Melissa cut ties with the world of porn and ultimately became a new person. In fact, her transformation was shocking. She ended up marrying Gene Scott, an LA-based televangelist renowned for his deep knowledge of the Bible. But that's not all. When Pastor Gene sadly passed away in 2005, Melissa took over his ministry, and she's never looked back since then. In the end, it is important to emphasize that we're not any better than these porn stars, and there are times in our lives when we'll feel lost, trapped, or stuck in choices that seem impossible to escape. But no matter how dark the road may seem, we must always remember that redemption is within reach.